So this is kind of an unfair question for me to answer because I'm just built differently. My experience is different. See, I was in the US military for 10 and a half years. I was literally trained how to be a good expat. It's to the point that, and pretty much anybody in the military will tell you this, is you would lose your career from being a bad expat if you're rude to locals, if you get in trouble with the law, if you're sleeping with people's wives, if you're getting in bar fights. There were literally to a point where there were clubs and bars in almost every city that was stationed around the world that had a blacklist where you couldn't go to those clubs and bars. It's a blacklist, and if you got caught in there, you would get in trouble. So I was trained to be a good expat, and a lot of things that I teach you guys about are from how I was trained in the military. Now, I will say that my transition into being an expat was very, very natural for me. But there are some growing pains and some little tips and tricks I like to impart upon you guys to make that shift or that journey a lot easier. The number one thing I have found for people transitioning into the expat life for the first time is commitment. So many people reach out to me for information and just fade away. They never hit the road because it's not an easy journey. You have to commit to it. And at the first sign of bumpiness, you cannot run away because it will be a bumpy ride. Employment opportunities, visa issues, family planning, racism, homophobia, sexism, war, conflict. These are all things that you're going to have to consider and at times really deal with in the real world, when back home you probably won't have to deal with those things overtly at least. You have to commit to the journey. You have to commit to the process. That's the number one thing that I tell anybody. Once you make that decision to move abroad, you stick to it, because there's going to be so many people and so many situations that try to talk you out of it. The second thing is finding the community that is interested in things that you're interested in also, and engaging with that community even before you arrive to find out what it's like there. For example, I train jujitsu. So almost every city that I go to that I know I'm going to be there for more than a week, I figure out how the jujitsu community is and how they interact, where can I go to train, and who I meet. For me, best community in the world is the BJJ by far, but if you're into knitting, you can get into that. If you're into droning, you can get into that. So these communities generally, especially now with the beauty of the internet, they have groups on Facebook, groups on TikTok, groups on Reddit. I absolutely adore Reddit because it is full of expats from a lot of places you want to go. But I say that because I say that with this one caveat is, not all expats are created equal. There's some expats who are abroad and absolutely miserable. I don't understand why you move to a place that makes you miserable and you stay there, but c'est la vie, I guess. But when you engage specifically in things that you're interested in, for example, book club, it's very, very common. Book clubs around the world are very kind, very welcoming, and you can really engage with them directly online very easily. So find those groups who align with your interests. That's going to make your transition a lot better. And one of the last big tips is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Understand that the place that you're moving, it was not designed for you. It is not built for you. Even though some places around the world have developed these small expat communities and enclaves, it's still not for you. The countries, the laws, the cuisine, the cultural norms, they were not built or created or cultivated with you in mind. So just become comfortable with that. If people tell you here it's done a certain way and you disagree with it, go home. That's that. The number of times I've met expats who just sit around and complain about how things are done in their new home country baffles me. So those are just a few tips from me. Again, like I said, my experience was very different than most people. But if you follow those suggestions, I think you're going to have a significantly better time transitioning into the expat life. And for me, the expat life is something that I've just grown to love and adore. And I love sharing these things with you all. So if you have any more questions, leave those questions and comments in the comment section below. And as usual, lead the world better than you found it. I will see you guys in the next video.